It has been 2 years since I got the old snip.
Snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap.
And I thought, what better time to reflect on it than now, 2 years after I had the procedure. Now, I got the procedure on Valentine's Day in February 2020. Valentine's Day gift to myself, I guess. I got snipped, I can't have kids. So today I'm going to be talking about my decision not to have children and my decision to get a vasectomy, as well as what the process was like for getting it, and just my general thoughts, I guess, on the whole thing. I'm gonna talk just pretty casually about all of this, and I hope that's going to help some people. Vasectomies are something that I see come up a lot in the child-free groups that I'm part of, and a lot of people have questions about them. And I guess that a lot of folks are concerned. This isn't really a myth dispelling sort of thing. This is more just a personal testimony about me getting it. Do research yourself, I guess, if you have specific questions about myths you've heard. Like, I don't know, the vasectomies undo themselves 50% of the time. Like, all of these myths that you hear pretty commonly, you can look up for yourself. You can find research there. I don't think my vasectomy has undone itself, if that helps quell any of your fears. So this is just me giving a personal testimony about my vasectomy and my decision to be child-free. Let's get into it. I'll start at the beginning.
Since the first organisms swam in the sea, the cycle of life has been continuous.
Not the very, very beginning, a little bit closer than that.
Sale of Merrill Lynch. Attention turned to AI.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so my decision to be child-free. I have known for more than half of my life, honestly, that I didn't want to have any kids of my own. I can remember as far back as about 13 or 14 years old, believing that if I ever did have kids, I knew I wanted to adopt. I felt no need to breed or make another copy of myself. I didn't feel a need for that, but I did feel a sort of compulsion to try to make the world a better place through things like adoption. So I always thought that if I have kids, I would adopt them, and that was going to be it. So I think I was always on course to eventually get a vasectomy one day. The decision to actually be completely child-free and not have any kids came after a considerable amount of thought and looking at my own lifestyle and the things that I want for my life, which all stemmed from the possibility that I could potentially end up being a stepfather at some point, and realizing through the process of that falling through that I didn't actually want it. That was a very challenging period of my life. It was roughly a 3 to 4 month period where I was really wrestling with this and trying to figure these things out. So this is not a split-second decision. This is something that happened over the course of a very long period of time. And then the final decision that I just didn't want children in my life was something I wrestled with for a very long period of time. So this is not a decision that I have changed since then. And I think that I came to that conclusion maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I don't really feel like doing the math. It sounds hard, and I don't want to do stuff that's challenging, which is part of why I don't want kids. So I don't want kids. That's pretty much the bottom line. I don't want children. Children are not going to be part of my life. What is going to be part of my life is things like money and freedom and travel and all of this other stuff that I want to do, being able to focus on my projects, being able to sit here and film without worrying about anyone other than myself and the 3 of you who are watching this video. Hey, how are you? You doing good? One of you is me in the future, so that's kind of weird. I'm just talking to myself at this point. Okay, but why a vasectomy? There are so many other options. I could just use condoms all the time. Well, for one, vasectomies are a lot more reliable than many other forms of protection. Additionally, when it comes to surgical methods, the method of getting a vasectomy as opposed to what a woman has to go through in order to not have children, vasectomies are way less invasive, the recovery time is a lot faster, and ultimately, it was just the smarter choice. And additionally, even if I were with somebody who had a surgery to prevent her from ever having children, I still would have gotten a vasectomy because you never know what's going to happen in a situation like that. And honestly, better safe than sorry. You never know what's going to happen. The world is a weird and crazy place. I'm overly cautious about this. I am adamant that I don't want children, and so I would take every precaution to make sure that I don't have them. I was always going to get a vasectomy. Even if my partner was on birth control or was sterilized in some way, I would still get a vasectomy. It's not all that invasive, although I guess that compared to getting a handshake, it's pretty invasive. But compared to other surgeries, vasectomy was not all that invasive. It just seemed like the smart thing to do, and I'm 100% glad that I got it. Another reason that I got the vasectomy is that it is a lot easier for men to self-sterilize than it is for women. I have heard some horror stories from women who had a very hard time getting self-sterilization. Most women have to go to completely different states and seek out specific doctors who are willing to do the surgery for them, because in other circumstances, the doctor just won't do it unless the woman already has children and has a husband who will sign off on the procedure, which is just completely insane. If you want to self-sterilize, you should be allowed to do that. It should be made way easier. The fact that it is so hard for women to get it is insane. Now, it wasn't necessarily easy for me to get it, but I definitely had a far easier time than any woman in the United States would have had. So the vasectomy is just, I mean, it's a no-brainer in my opinion. It was really easy for me to get one compared to what women have to go through in order to self-sterilize. So yes, I know that there are other options if you don't want kids, but the vasectomy was the most reliable and expedient form of making sure that it was never going to happen for me. So that's what I got. And it is very freeing and a huge load off my mind.
Phrasing!
Should I be saying huge load in this video? That feels wrong. Okay, let's move on to the next part. Finding a doctor was a bit challenging. I think I had to call 2 or 3 before I found them. Now, that I say that's challenging, that's mainly just because I'd really like to think that this is something we could call up any doctor and the doctor will just do it. So yeah, it was a little annoying having to contact some, but the doctor that I did finally find who would be willing to do it still tried to talk me out of it. We had a whole consultation where I sat and I talked to him for like 30 minutes about my reasons for not wanting kids. And I mean, it's kind of annoying that I had to convince him to do the surgery for me, but whatever. I know that it was a lot easier for me to do that than it would be for a woman to do the same thing. I mean, seriously, there are Reddit posts where you can find women who had to do all of this research and bring a binder filled with research to a doctor in order to convince the doctor to give them this procedure.
And well, that's a big binder.
Oh, this is just cakes.
Like, it's insane. You should just be able to say, hey, I want to self-sterilize, and they'll say, okay, we'll schedule you. That should be the case. So yeah, it was a little annoying having to convince the doctor to let me get the procedure, but I did eventually convince him to do it. So I got the vasectomy booked, and I booked it for Valentine's Day of 2020, which was about 6 months after the consultation and was the soonest that he was able to get me in. I didn't choose Valentine's Day because I thought, hey, it would be fun if it was Valentine's Day. I think I didn't even realize it was Valentine's Day until I got a little bit closer to the date and realized, oh wait, February 14th, that's Valentine's Day. That's romantic. So I got it scheduled and I paid the only amount of money that I had to pay in order to get it done, which was my copay. That was it. I didn't have to pay anything else through my health insurance. I paid 20 or 30 bucks, I think, in order to get the vasectomy, and that was it. I only had to pay the copay, period. Even like all of the drugs and everything, that was all covered by my insurance. I know this is gonna depend on your own insurance plan, how much it's gonna end up costing, but I was going in expecting like a couple $100 at least, and I only had to pay 20 or 30. So that was a huge relief for me. I'd been even saving up, but I just hadn't done any research or talked to my insurance provider about the policy around self-sterilizing. So yeah, it turned out to be really affordable. And I think that most people who have health insurance are going to be a little bit surprised at how affordable it is to self-sterilize, because many other people I've talked to who went through their health insurance in order to get the procedure done paid less than 50 bucks. So it's actually a really affordable procedure. And compared to having kids, it's a much cheaper option, I promise you. You will save way more money in the long run, no matter what you have to pay. Even if I had wound up having to pay $1,000, I still would have done it because the amount of money I was going to save and compared to that was astronomical. I view it as a fantastic investment in myself, my future, and my business. Okay, now the question that almost everybody has when I see things like this in Reddit or in any of the child-free groups that I'm part of on any social media site, everyone always wants to know, what was the procedure like? Did it hurt? How was the recovery? Those sorts of questions. And honestly, did it hurt? No. Listen, I'm gonna admit something to you that I've admitted several times to many people. I'm a huge baby, like a seriously massive baby when it comes to anything medical and when it comes to pain in particular. I have an incredibly low pain tolerance. I don't like it, not a fan. I don't care about being cool. Listen, I'm a gigantic baby. The idea of getting a surgery, especially there, was not all that compelling. I was just driven enough to get it done that I was willing to fight through whatever pain resulted. And it wound up really not hurting at all. So when I went home after the consultation, he gave me a prescription for a bunch of drugs, told me I needed to pick them up like a month or so before the surgery so that I could take them a couple of hours or a couple of days before the surgery itself. And it was a lot of drugs. Seriously, he gave me painkillers, Valium, and then some sort of painkiller nasal spray, like all of these things. And I was supposed to take all of them before the surgery and then some things after the surgery as well. And one, I don't want to touch Valium. I've seen people that I care about on Valium and it just doesn't appeal to me. I know that it probably would have helped me a little bit more, but I didn't want anything to do with it, so I did not take the Valium. I did take the painkillers. I didn't even take the nasal spray because that seemed a little bit overkill to me. So I only took exactly the amount of painkillers they told me to take pre-surgery and nothing else. So I took that dosage, went in to get the surgery, and I'm not gonna say I didn't feel anything. I did feel it, but what I felt was more discomfort than pain. I felt a lot of, how graphic can I get in this? There was like some tugging and things like that, but there was no like physical pain even when he was cutting. The pain was really my mind hearing and seeing these things. I really wish that I'd been blindfolded and that everything had been drowned out with music, because it probably would have been a little bit easier on me. But being able to like see the bloody knife and hear him and what he was doing and everything.
This is the worst.
I feel like my brain tried to translate that as me being in pain because my brain knew I should be in pain, but I really didn't feel anything with local anesthetic. The only thing I felt was the needle that put the local anesthetic in, and that was the worst part of the surgery too. Again, me being a big baby, I have a massive fear of needles. I hate needles. I can't stand them at all. And so that was the worst part of the surgery for me. So if you can stand a big old needle, then the rest of it is pretty much a piece of cake, and the painkillers, I guess they did their job. So yeah, that's my experience with the surgery itself. Now, when I left, I'll say that it really just felt like I had been kicked down there.
Kick her in the balls!
And that's how it felt for about 24 hours or a little bit less after that. It just felt like I'd been kicked and it kind of hurt. I really wasn't all that tender otherwise.
Ooh, my tenders.
And I had been told that I could expect almost a week of recovery, but after less than 48 hours, I felt like I was completely back to normal. I was able to move around on my own without any issues. I didn't have any tearing. And honestly, if I have a scar, I really can't see it anymore. I'd prove it to you, but that seems inappropriate for YouTube. So you're just gonna have to take my word for it. It really was not that bad. The procedure and recovery were fine, and how I feel right now, other than completely elated knowing that I'm never going to have kids.
From now on, today will be known as not a Father's Day.
I mean, I feel perfectly fine. So yeah, the whole procedure was fine. It was easy and everything worked out okay. So if you're somebody who is considering getting a vasectomy, I would definitely recommend doing it. But before you go out to schedule a consultation with your doctor about getting a vasectomy, I would really appreciate it if you would like, comment, and subscribe, because all of that really helps me out as I try to grow this channel. All of my subscribers are like the children that I never had, which is really weird to think. I probably shouldn't have said that either. Oh man, this video is really getting away from me. I'm just going to go ahead and end it. So thank you so much for taking the time to check out this video. If you would like to see another one from me, you can do so by clicking up here. And until next time, bye.